So picture this. It's Friday, June 12th, 2026.
Right, just a normal end to the week in tech.
Exactly. Anthropic is, riding high. They are the absolute darling of the artificial intelligence world, sitting just 12 days away from this historic multi-billion-dollar initial public offering.
The hype was unreal.
Oh, totally unreal. And then at exactly 5:21 p.m., the United States government they effectively vaporized their flagship product worldwide.
With a single piece of paper.
Just one memo. It was the kind of week that started with normal tech world celebration and ended with, like, a localized earthquake. I mean, it fundamentally rearranged the borders between software, high finance, and global geopolitics.
Yeah, and the fallout from that single minute, that 5:21 p.m. drop is still rippling outward. We're looking at a scenario where the structural foundation of the whole AI industry was stress-tested in a way literally no analyst predicted.
Nobody saw it coming.
Not a single person. And it triggered this massive chain reaction across global markets and international diplomacy.
Which is exactly our mission for you today. We're taking a deep dive into Aaron Rose's highly detailed Tech Reader AI Digest from June 12th to break down how the rules of this new era they changed overnight.
Completely rewrote the playbook.
Right. We are going to connect the dots between an unprecedented government shutdown of a frontier AI model, the absolute largest stock market debut in history, and what is shaping up to be the most agonizingly awkward global diplomatic summit on record.
Because, I mean, these are not isolated events.
No, not at all.
They're three distinct symptoms of the exact same underlying shift in how power operates in the digital age.
Yeah, and whether you're just passively investing your retirement savings in a broad index fund, or you're relying on AI software to streamline your daily workflow, the ground beneath your feet just moved.
Dramatically.
So we're going to get you completely caught up on the mechanics of what happened, why it matters to your portfolio, and how it rewires the international balance of power. And we'll do it without burying you in, technical overload.
Keep it simple.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with that Friday evening directive from the U.S. government.
The timeline is so critical here. 5:21 p.m. Eastern Time. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick sends a binding directive to Anthropic.
Just right at the buzzer before the weekend.
Right before the weekend. And the order places their two most advanced models, so that's Fable 5 and Mythos 5, under strict immediate export controls.
Immediate.
Yes. The language specifically barred any foreign national from accessing the models, regardless of where they were physically located.
Which, if you know anything about the internet, creates a massive technological nightmare. I mean, the directive applies even to Anthropic's own non-citizen employees working inside their own offices in San Francisco.
It's incredible.
And I was reading through the technical breakdown of this. It isn't a simple geographical block.
No, you can't just geofence it.
Right. You can't just look at an IP address because, anyone can spoof an IP address with a $5 VPN. The government was demanding that Anthropic verify the actual citizenship of the human being on the other side of the screen.
And that right there gets to the core of the infrastructure failure. The current internet architectures, specifically the APIs, the application programming interfaces that these companies use to serve their models to thousands of businesses at once, they rely on digital keys.
Right. Strings of text, not passports.
Exactly, not passports. Anthropic processes millions of queries an hour. They have zero mechanism to conduct real-time know-your-customer identity verification on a per-query basis.
It's like you may ask for on a highway toll booth, right?
Okay, yeah.
But instead of just checking if a car has an EZ-Pass transponder, you are suddenly mandated by federal law to verify the birth certificate of every single passenger inside the car while they speed by at 100 miles an hour.
That is a perfect way to put it. The architecture simply cannot handle that level of friction.
It just breaks.
Yeah. Because Anthropic couldn't perfectly filter out foreign nationals at the packet level, their only legally compliant option was to drop the blast doors.
Just pull the plug.
A total global blackout of Fable 5 and Mythos 5.
And the commercial whiplash from this is just unprecedented. I mean, Claude Opus 4.8, their older generation model, remains online.
Sure.
But Mythos 5, which had been generating massive enterprise revenue in that restricted beta Project Glasswing, it's totally dark.
Completely offline.
And Fable 5, the consumer crown jewel that they released just days prior, is entirely inaccessible. But I have to point out the timing here because it feels, I don't know, intensely calculated.
Well, the optics are definitely something.
Right, because I read that the catalyst for this emergency brake was a third party claiming to have jailbroken Mythos 5, supposedly exposing advanced cybersecurity vulnerabilities.
That was the official reasoning, yeah.
But Anthropic pushed back hard on that. They stated the jailbreak was incredibly narrow, requiring highly specific prompt engineering. And more importantly, they noted that the exact same vulnerabilities are already present and accessible in models currently being served by OpenAI.
Yes, that was a key part of their defense.
So why is Anthropic being singled out? Why are they completely shutting down their revenue engine mere days after they filed an S-1 confidential registration statement on June 1st to go public?
Well, what's fascinating here is we actually don't even need to litigate the specific national security merits of the Commerce Department's claim to understand the market impact.
Okay, what do you mean?
Impartially speaking, the sheer speed of the government's action is the real story here. The United States just definitively proved it possesses the standing authority to act as an instant kill switch on frontier software distribution.
Wow. Yeah, just boom, it's gone.
Exactly. No public hearings, no grace period to build compliance tools. Just a letter at 5:21 p.m. that vaporizes a company's flagship product line.
Imagine being an enterprise customer in that situation.
Yeah.
You just signed a massive contract to integrate Fable 5 into your customer service backend. You log in on Saturday morning and the software is gone.
Oof. Gone.
No timeline for a fix. Aaron Rose points out in the digest that no risk disclosure section in Anthropic's S1 filing could have possibly modeled for an instantaneous, zero-notice global shutdown driven by a sudden nationality filter.
Because it fundamentally rewrites the risk premium on pure software companies in the AI space.
Right.
Investors hate uncertainty above all else. When the regulatory environment proves it can just delete your product distribution with a single email, capital naturally seeks safer harbor.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm an institutional investor watching an application layer get wiped out by an arbitrary compliance hurdle, I'm pulling my money out of the software.
Naturally.
I want something the government can't just turn off with a memo. I want concrete, steel, and silicon. I want the physical infrastructure that actually powers the entire ecosystem.
Which logically drives us straight into the second massive shockwave of the day.
Great capital migration.
Yes, the SpaceX initial public offering, trading under the ticker SPCX.
This was huge.
Unbelievable. It became the largest IPO in the history of global markets, closing its first trading day, that very same Friday, at $160.95 a share.
Up 19% from its $135 IPO price, giving it a market cap north of $2.1 trillion on day one.
The trading volume was staggering, too. Roughly 522 million shares changed hands.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The valuation metrics tell a completely different story than the company's name implies. SpaceX is being valued at 110 times its trailing 12-month revenue.
Which is unheard of for aerospace.
Right. For context, a mature industrial or aerospace company might trade at 2 or 3 times revenue. Nobody pays a 110x multiple for a company that just builds rockets and satellites.
Because the market is entirely ignoring the aerospace division.
Totally ignoring it.
They are pricing SpaceX as the ultimate landlord of artificial intelligence infrastructure. The valuation is almost entirely anchored to xAI, which includes the Grok frontier models and, crucially, the Colossus compute clusters.
The ones that lease out processing power to giants like Google and even Anthropic. But the underlying financials highlight a wild contradiction in that business model. We have the internal numbers right here. Starlink, the satellite internet division, is a cash-generating machine.
Oh, absolute powerhouse.
They posted a $1.19 billion operating profit in the first quarter of 2026, boasting a 63% EBITDA margin.
Yeah.
And for those not deep in the financial weeds, EBITDA basically measures a company's raw operational cash flow before you factor in accounting tricks, taxes, and debt payments.
So 63% is phenomenal.
It's absurdly good. But the xAI segment, they lost $6.36 billion in 2025 alone.
That's a massive burn rate.
It looks like building the world's most luxurious casino where the slot machines, meaning Grok, and the massive Colossus server farms are just hemorrhaging billions of dollars in electricity and hardware depreciation.
The capital expenditure required to build and maintain those Colossus server farms is staggering. The market is making a deeply speculative bet that the enterprise revenue from renting out that compute power, combined with whatever frontier capabilities emerge after Grok 4, will eventually outpace that $6 billion burn rate.
Which is a massive risk.
It is. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, There is a mechanical force at play in the stock market that renders that fundamental business risk entirely secondary.
You mean the passive index funds? The invisible whales of Wall Street?
Exactly. The MSCI Global Standard Indexes. This is the financial plumbing that dictates how trillions of dollars move globally.
Literally trillions.
Yes. Starting Saturday, June 14th, MSCI's large cap index inclusion mechanics kick in. These indexes are tracked by an estimated $5.79 trillion in passively managed assets. Because SpaceX was so massive on its debut, it triggered early inclusion rules.
So we're talking about algorithmic robotic buying. A fund manager overseeing a teacher's pension in Ohio tracking the MSCI index cannot look at XAI's $6 billion loss and decide to pass.
Nope, they have no choice.
They are structurally mandated to buy SPCX stock in exact proportion to its new massive weight in the index. The software just executes the trade the second the market opens.
They are entirely price-insensitive buyers.
Wow.
It establishes a multi-billion-dollar floor under the stock. And the contrast with the S&P 500 index makes this even more compelling. SpaceX actually failed to qualify for the S&P 500.
Wait, really? The biggest IPO in history failed to qualify?
Yes, because S&P rules demand strict quality control, specifically requiring 4 consecutive quarters of GAAP profitability, meaning real, audited accounting profit. Because XAI is burning billions, SpaceX failed that quality test, missing out on an estimated $27 billion in forced buying from S&P trackers.
That's fascinating. So it's like MSCI acts more like a nightclub bouncer who only cares how tall you are, not how much money is actually in your wallet.
That's a great analogy.
Since SpaceX has a $2 trillion market cap, MSCI just waves them right through the door.
Exactly. And the downstream effect for you, the listener, is profound. Millions of everyday people saving for retirement who have never read a tech digest or scrutinized the power consumption of a Colossus server rack are about to become indirect investors in a $6 billion AI infrastructure gamble.
Whether they like it or not.
Whether they know it or not. The index funds are forcibly tying the retirement savings of the general public to the physical hardware that powers artificial intelligence.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. We have this monumental flow of global capital rushing into physical hardware on the exact same afternoon. The U.S. government proves it can unilaterally shut down the software layer.
2 massive tectonic forces colliding.
Right. So what does this all mean when the human beings running these empires, the tech CEOs and the global politicians, are forced into a room together while the aftershocks are still echoing?
We find out immediately at the G7 summit in Evian-les-Bains, France.
Oh, man.
The timing couldn't possibly be more dramatic.
Scheduled for June 15th to the 17th. Which is quite literally the Monday morning following the Friday night kill switch.
I'll talk about a tight turnaround.
And the guest list is the absolute pinnacle of AI leadership. Sam Altman from OpenAI, Dario Amodei from Anthropic, and Demis Hassabis from Google DeepMind are all walking into the same room.
French President Emmanuel Macron engineered this specific gathering. France holds the rotating G7 presidency, and Macron has been running this highly aggressive campaign to position his country as the sovereign AI hub of Europe.
Right, he's been pushing that hard.
Very hard. He's already secured massive infrastructure investments from players like SoftBank and Salesforce. His entire agenda for the summit was to project a unified, cooperative, multilateral approach to artificial intelligence governance.
Yeah, OpenAI's global affairs officer, Chris Lefane, even stated on the record they were expecting to leave France with collaborative agreements on youth safety and joint discussions on managing frontier risks in the biological and cyber domains.
But this raises an important question. How does a multilateral summit on voluntary safety commitments survive the reality of unilateral government force?
It probably doesn't.
Macron spent months carefully scripting a diplomatic triumph. He wanted global tech leaders and heads of state holding hands and agreeing to shared, voluntary frameworks.
And the history of these leaders holding hands is already fraught. Aaron Rose's Digest points out a brilliant little detail here. The last time Sam Altman and Dario Amodei shared a major public stage was at an AI Impact Summit in India this past February.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, during a photo op with Prime Minister Modi, they explicitly refused a request to hold hands in a gesture of solidarity.
The competitive animosity was palpable.
So tense.
The corporate tension was already at a boiling point before the Commerce Department got involved. Now, Secretary Litnick's 5.21 p.m. directive is the giant elephant in the room that completely shatters Macron's multilateral illusion.
It is comically awkward. I mean, picture the dinner table in Evian-les-Bains. Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, has to sit across from European leaders to discuss voluntary cooperative safety commitments. Less than 72 hours after the United States government unilaterally banned his flagship software inside those leaders' own countries.
It's brutal. And the European digital sovereignty narrative takes a massive hit here.
Oh, completely.
The G7 leaders are looking at the United States and realizing that no matter what voluntary frameworks they sign at a summit, the U.S. Commerce Department can override the global availability of frontier AI with a single signature on a Friday afternoon.
Exactly what leverage does Macron have when the kill switch is located in Washington?
None.
Right. It forces every international delegate to wonder if the U.S. action is the new gold standard for rapidly addressing cybersecurity threats,
Oh.
or if it was a rogue protectionist move that completely delegitimizes the concept of international cooperation.
And that creates a diplomatic gridlock. The very premise of a cooperative global regulatory framework relies on shared decision-making.
Which didn't happen.
Right. The U.S. actions prove that when the stakes are high enough, shared decision-making goes out the window in favor of blunt, unilateral force.
So let's pull back and look at the sheer scale of the landscape we've just mapped out today. In a single 24-hour window, the architecture of the future was stress-tested and fundamentally altered.
Change forever.
We watched the application layer of AI prove incredibly fragile as the U.S. government demonstrated its ability to instantly lock out global users over a single cybersecurity vulnerability claim, effectively vaporizing commercial access to Anthropic's top-tier models.
And responding to that fragility, we saw capital markets take refuge in the physical layer. The historic $2 trillion SpaceX IPO triggered automated index fund mechanics, forcing trillions of dollars in passive retirement assets to underwrite the massive, loss-leading infrastructure that physically powers the AI ecosystem.
Finally, we saw the friction between those two realities. Unilateral government control and trillion-dollar corporate infrastructure collide on the world stage at the G7, basically paralyzing multilateral diplomacy.
It's a lot to take in.
It is, but the reason we are dissecting this is that these aren't abstract concepts happening in a vacuum. This cascade of events actively dictates the composition of your 401k. It determines what digital tools you are legally allowed to access for your business, and it reshapes who actually holds the reins of global power.
Absolutely. The boundary lines of the digital economy were permanently redrawn on June 12th. Regulators now view the software layer as something they can instantly command, while financial markets are racing to build fortresses around the hardware layer.
Before we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative scenario to mull over. A scenario that takes everything we learned today and pushes it one step further into the future.
Let's hear it.
We just witnessed the U.S. government successfully execute an emergency kill switch. They identified a vulnerability, drafted a legal directive, sent it to a centralized corporate headquarters in San Francisco, and the CEO of Anthropic was forced to comply.
Right. The entire regulatory action relied on a single point of failure, a corporate hierarchy.
But what happens tomorrow? If a decentralized open-source AI model achieves that exact same level of frontier capability?
Oh, wow.
What happens when a model carrying those same advanced cybersecurity risks isn't locked behind a corporate API, but is freely downloaded, modified, and running locally on millions of independent laptops globally?
Unstoppable.
When there is no central server to block, no CEO to subpoena, and no corporate headquarters to receive a 5.21 p.m. directive.
Wait, who does the Commerce Department send their letter to then?
It represents a paradigm shift that entirely neutralizes the playbook the government just used. The current regulatory framework assumes someone is always in charge of the switch.
It makes you question how long the illusion of top-down control can possibly last. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We love pulling apart these complex webs with you, and we will be back to navigate whatever shockwave hits next. Stay curious.